Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now, your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. This is your favorite daily podcast. Sorry, we're getting out a little bit late today. It's because we were working on a very special podcast for you today that we're about to present to you. Now, I'm asking all of you to give Julie and I a little bit of grace on today's show because we're presenting material to you that we've never presented before. And additionally, we are sharing information with you that is way out of our wheelhouse in some of these topics. We are doing this because a lot of you have been asking us for years to really help you to give you guys a plan to drill down on your, let's just call it health and wellness, but so much more than that. And so what we've done is when we've been working on this on and off for how long, Julie? 6 months, maybe a year?
Long time, yeah.
Yeah. And these are pages and pages and pages of notes. So we're not going to talk about all this because frankly, we're not
But that'll be in the newsletter for them to catch up. Yeah.
Right. So if you want all of these notes, which you're going to want, you need to subscribe to the newsletter. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. And obviously it's our daily newsletter. And you definitely want these notes because what it is, it's a blueprint for all the things that you should consider doing to be very proactive about your health care. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through here. And by the way, the topic of today's show is Look Better, Feel Better, Live Better, Your Health Strategy Guide. And this is relevant. And what took the most time is we've broken this down no matter what age group you're in. So that you can apply the same strategies because they really do, they're universal effectively. So let me set it up by just starting out with this. The U.S. healthcare system is designed to not be preventative by nature. It's designed to be problem solving after the problem occurs. And it only makes sense, I'm sure all of you will agree, that it makes sense to not have the problem in the first place. Right?
Ideally. Right?
Ideally, yeah. So it would be great not to have the problem in the first place. And the problem could be minor, it could be major, or the minor problem becomes a major problem. And as you age, it doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s or your 30s on older, there's little, things that you can do that'll be preventative to help you to prevent manifest problems as you get older. And this isn't going to just be about, low carb and all the rest of it. We're actually going to get into the weeds. And Julie and I are going to tell you about the things that we've been doing health-wise for we've been married for 34 years this year. So a lot of this stuff we've been doing for that long amount of time, but we really kicked it up, I'd say about 10 notches, probably about 12, maybe 15 years ago. And so we're going to be helping you hopefully understand the journey that we've been on health-wise, and maybe you consider doing some of these same things for yourself. We've also broken down when we're presenting you with this blueprint. Again, just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to our newsletter. We're also breaking it down what the costs are. And Julie actually was telling me prior to me hitting record here that she wants to help you guys overcome some of the anxiety you might be having about doing some of the things that we're going to suggest to you. So without any further delay, Julie, let's jump in. And I'm going to ask you a question, okay?
Sure.
So when I was exploring a lot of this stuff, the preventative stuff initially, and I'm asking this question so you can help overcome your fellow analytical, skeptical types that are out there, because Julie's more analytical and skeptical than I am. So when I was doing some of the research initially on a lot of this stuff, your wiring, your mindset made it so that you had to vet the things more thoroughly. So can you share for the listeners who are also going to be taking this information, if they feel the need to vet it more thoroughly, what you did, and maybe they can do the same thing? Because after all, we're not healthcare professionals. Do you understand my question?
Sure. And if we're being honest, it can be intimidating, right? So I think that that's part of it. And there's this thing called white coat syndrome. We see that white coat from a nurse or a doctor, and where there's some kind of fight or flight for some people, not everybody, but I think it's a fairly common thing where you have kind of hit the panic button, then you don't want to deal with it. And then you want to research it. So we have AI that will help. We have reviews, we have ratings. There's lots of different things there. And I guess you could call it being a skeptic, but when it comes to your healthcare, I think that that's a place that you should be skeptical because there's real doctors, there's fake doctors, there's online doctors, there's free advice, there's social media. Where do you go to feel confident? And it also can be frustrating because, I want a doctor that's going to say here's the deal, A, B, C, D, and E. Not, well, you could try this and you could try that, and kind of the woo-woo end of things. So yeah, I mean, I'll take being called a skeptic for that, but I think if you're going to be skeptical about something, it should be vetting your healthcare professionals.
Well, so here's the big challenge that a lot of you guys will have, and we had this as well. So when I was thinking about years ago whether or not I wanted to do HRT, and hormone replacement therapy, that's HRT. That is basically testosterone, and there's a couple other things you take along with that. I went to our general practitioner doctor, and the general practitioner doctor gave me a blood test. And I'll give you guys my actual numbers so those of you guys are familiar with HRT. And this was probably when I was in my early 40s. And the doctor gave me a blood test, and the blood test essentially was to test what your testosterone level is and your free testosterone level and a whole bunch of other stuff, obviously. And the normal range, I think I'm getting this right. Remember, not a healthcare professional. The normal range for testosterone in a man at the age that I was when I originally did it was 300 to 800, I think. And mine was like 287. And I remember asking the doctor, well, that seems low. And he was like, well, you know what? It's on the low end. You really don't need to do anything about it.
You're still in the range, whatever.
You're still in the range. Get more sleep, do more exercise, just you can do these sort of things just to get it up to the lower range. And I thought, okay, well, all right, that's fine. And then I just sort of like went with it. And then I had a coaching client who I'd had coached for a long period of time. All of a sudden, and I had these notes, these ongoing notes, that went back years. And so I could actually look back, 5 or 6 years, and I could see the type of person he was. And when I'd read the notes that I'd write down, very enthusiastic, really setting big, whatever I was writing. And then looking to the person that he was sort of, as he was aging, the person that he was becoming, less ambitious, less, let's just call it vital and virile. All right. So, and then this, just follow me on this, is a little arc that I'm building here, is that he then started to rekindle the person that he was like years ago. And I'd known, and I sort of felt like I was talking to the version of him that was 5 or 6 years younger. Again, I was reviewing my notes. Julie and I take very good notes for all of our elite coaching clients. And I asked him, what the heck's going on? He goes, oh, I meant to tell you, I started going on HRT. It was at that point, it wasn't even for very long, maybe 90 days or 120 days. And I didn't know much about it other than what I maybe heard on different podcasts or whatnot. And he started telling me about it. And I started then exploring it myself. And I mentioned some other coaching clients, male coaching clients primarily, about his sort of miraculous turnaround. And they, almost to a person, also went on HRT, but I didn't, right? And remember, I knew that I had that blood test that said my testosterone level is 287. I said, well, I'm able to get things done. I'm all about powering through whatever the hell it is. I'm all about doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do at the highest level. So whatever obstacles I had with regards to maybe not having the same level of energy and focus, I was figuring out hacks for it. Easy. And you guys are probably doing a lot of the same things as I'm trying to describe the story so you can maybe relate to it. And so then I had these coaching clients again en masse that were essentially having these sort of turnarounds in their lives. So I've decided to go and do some more exploration on this. So maybe I was the skeptic, not you, Julie. So I started.
But you decided to go beyond just the GP.
Exactly. And then the general practitioner. And then I started talking with people, doctors who only focus on real doctors who only focus on HRT. I started to, learn more about it. I didn't want to, I just wanted to understand why is it that these men were having such miraculous turnarounds. And so then I finally had my blood test again. And then I put the doctor put me on HRT and a hormone replacement therapy. And I think I was 42 or 43, somewhere in there. I don't remember. And it wasn't right away, but within 60 to 90 days, there was a miraculous turnaround. And I mean in the sense that I started to have better energy. I started to have, obviously I was able to recover from working out more. I was able to work out more. Your skin, your body feels different and it looks different. I was able to focus for longer periods of time. I didn't get as tired or sort of worn out or just sort of, how sometimes,
fatigues, kind of stressy feeling.
If you guys are in your 20s, you won't understand what I just said. But as you get older, what happens is so when you're younger, you can have high levels of intense concentration at work for maybe like 4 or 5, 6 hours, maybe realistically 4 hours. But as you get older, that window, cheep, beep, 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 so now you're down to like maybe 2 hours. And I was feeling like that was happening. But with the HRT, I started to come back. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is it. So my mood improved. I started to feel less old. Just that's the only way of, really
And I
describing
think,
it.
wouldn't you say you felt more like yourself? Like,
Yeah. Well, you would, I mean, you tell me, I mean,
you
you are the
seemed
one.
more like you in your 20s and 30s and, more energy, excuse me, and more of like an even keel emotionally and also mentally being able to deal with more intensity. Whereas before it seemed like that was becoming frustrating.
Well,
I mean, I definitely could tell a change. And I would say probably 90 to 120 days.
yeah. So I'll tell you guys something personal that Julie knows this. So one of the things that I was experiencing and I was just accepting as getting older, and I know I'm speaking to a lot of you as I tell this story, is that I would have these bouts of not of feeling like low energy, almost, I'm not going to use the word depressed because I don't relate to that from, in that regards to what I'm trying to express to you. I'm not saying depression's not a real thing. I'm just saying for me, it was hormonal. So I would have these,
Just
it was,
lows. You would call them, I think I would call them lows or,
and I,
yeah.
yeah. And I started to journal. This is before I went on HRT. And I started to write them down. And I did this for like 3 years. And I was keeping basically a diary or a journal, but on my computer. And I would write it down. And then so I would have like normal feeling Tim for like 60 days. And then for like 30 days, maybe 15 or 20 days, I could literally feel myself feeling low energy, the things I was interested in before I wasn't interested in
Mm-hmm.
anymore. The best way of describing it is, you guys remember in Wizard of Oz when everything went from black and white to color? Well, it felt like everything went from color then to black and white,
They're
and I
slipping
was
back into the black and white. Yeah.
exactly, but I was able to push through it because I knew it wasn't going to last because I'd been journaling when I'd felt this way. So I was able to say, okay, well, 2 weeks, maybe you're going to start to feel like yourself again. And I would do what I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to do it at the highest level. And I'd get the things I was supposed to be doing every day done. And I just basically sucked it up buttercup. It was just the way, it's what happens when you get older. Well, on the HRT, that doesn't happen anymore. I don't feel those lows. I don't feel those big ups and downs in, you can call it mood. And what's sad to me is I look back and my dad when he was my age, and I could definitely see he was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing the exact same cycles that I was starting to experience, but I did something about it. So that's my story about HRT. Now, HRT for women, Julie, you want to talk about that because you've been exploring that a lot.
Well, I'm just starting to explore that. And, that requires blood tests and it requires panels and interpretation and all of that kind of thing. And so I like you, I think, and a lot of our listeners and certainly our coaching clients, we tend to be more of the power through that kind of thing types, where especially if you're a coach, because we've talked about this before, when you got to practice what you preach, right? And have a strong mindset. And you can just ignore that and drink more water and work out more and all that kind of thing. But eventually that does catch up to you. And I've felt that and I'm being proactive about that as well, because here's the thing. I think I have a lot of respect. I think you do too for the powering through types and having a strong mindset and you can handle anything. And if it's meant to be, it's up to me. But eventually there are real things like hormone levels dropping and maybe vitamin deficiencies and your body changes as you age. And the thing is, I have come to realize that the energy it takes to make yourself power through on those days where maybe you are experiencing that lull, as you said, going from the color to the black and white, that starts to be more and more of a heavy lift. And you don't have to do that to yourself. That's why we have these, things like HRT. That's why they're out there. And to not pursue that because you've got to, you're stronger than that. I think that'll eventually catch up to you. And then I do want to address the whole white coat syndrome, is that not dealing with these things and allowing your fear, your trepidation, your stress, your anxiety, even the inconvenience of going to see some of these specialists and being proactive. If you allow that to be in control and then you wake up, I think probably everybody who's listening or watching has known somebody or known someone who's known someone, and hopefully it's not somebody close to you or a relative, but who waited too long and didn't have those tests and wasn't proactive. And then they woke up one day and they had stage 4 something. And then they were gone in 6 months.
Well, you're bouncing, right?
Well, no, what I'm saying is be proactive. Don't let your reticence to pursue these types of tests and being proactive. Don't let your nervousness control doing it. It's better to do it and then be proactive and manage it.
Let's close the loop on HRT before we start
Sure.
talking about the other things, okay? Because because the next thing you want to talk about that you're starting to meander into is a big topic too. But just the bottom line is there's a lot of different ways to go about having your hormones checked, and you should go to a doctor. And there's a lot of ways that you can do it, frankly, using telemedicine. And
A doctor who specializes in that, not a generalist.
yeah, exactly. And if you guys want to know who we use for that, just text me directly at 512-758-0206. Or frankly, if you're on YouTube, just ask me and I'll answer the question in the comments. Again, we're not medical professionals. We don't have business relationships with any of these people, but the place we use, they'll send us to one of these labs. There's, several of these national labs that you could just go and have your blood drawn, and then they send the results to the HRT doctor, and the HRT doctor then will prescribe based on whatever your results are. And then you do checkups every 6 months. It's really no big deal, honestly. It's just once you get into the cycle of things, it's, every Monday I have my HRT, and that's about the extent of it. And then I do just wash, rinse, repeat, and do blood tests every 90 days or 6 months, however frequently I want to do it. So yes. And so for women, it's interesting. I think this is worth talking about, Julie, because you were under the misbelief that HRT for women was just absolutely a no-go. And I ran into somebody in our community in Dorado, a gal who was about your age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who I'm talking about? Larry's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about the HRT for women and how much it had changed her life. And then she started to tell me, I was just listening. I wasn't, and she started saying how there's a lot of women that were suffering because there was an onerous report about HRT for women that came out. Again, not a medical professional. Do your own homework. Is that enough
Right.
disclaimers for the show? And the essence of the report was that HRT is terrible. Hormone replacement therapy for women causes all kinds of downstream this and the other things. And the report was never vetted to the extent that no one's ever done it. Had never been a published follow-up report. And then when different medical professionals went in to study the results and study the actual tests that was done that had sort of set HRT for women in this negative direction, it was basically an invalid study that had been done, and it had since been different, major medical, you guys, again, do your own homework. On women, it's the women's HRT, though different than men, is equally, if not in some cases, more effective. Like Julie's of the age where she's premenopausal, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. Is and that's like,
Sure.
in her generation, her mom and all of her aunts, they suffered through all of it. And I wrote that down too, Julie. So Julie and I are Generation X, and a lot of you guys listening are, I would say our average listener is probably like 35 to probably 65. So we grew up where all the when you just got old when you got older, right?
You didn't complain about it.
And you
just suffered.
You complained to other old people about it, but you didn't necessarily complain, and so if your environment, I was sharing a story about my dad. So if I had used that as my benchmark for how I'm supposed to be feeling when I'm in my 50s, then I just would have started accepting it. Because after all, that was what my dad was doing when he was in his 50s. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that would be my fate as well.
Yep.
Well, if your environment is essentially that, then you're going to, without really expanding your thinking, you're going to emulate that type of behavior, which I'll give you guys an example. I've got an email or a text. I got a text last week from someone who's interested in being an elite coaching client with me. And we talked about that earlier this week. And that's where I have you as a private client. And if you're interested in that, let me know at 512-758-0206. But keep in mind, elite clients are our top tier clients. They're the people that are already in massive action, already proven their ability to produce. Because elite coaching, we're very selective who we work with, and it's expensive. So just keep that in mind. But if that's you, 512-758-0206. And I know he's listening, so I'm not going to use his name, but I am going to say what the text said. And I won't even read you the text. I'm just going to summarize. He is 59, and he was describing how he felt, if I could only summarize it, it would be certainly not optimistic about his future. He was sort of not happy where he was in life, as far as he made the statement that he can't believe he still has to do some of the same things to generate leads that he had to do, 20 years ago. He'd been in the business for a while. Matter of fact, I think I kind of knew who he was. I recognized his name. So for a while, he was a big, I think, high profile national agent. And now he was 59. He had some financial setbacks, normal life things. But the thing that I was reading into his text was the normal life things compounded with the low testosterone was causing him not to have the tools to fight back or to build himself back better. Okay. So I messaged him back. And the only thing I asked him, I messaged him two things, one of which isn't, I won't share with you, but the other one was, are you willing to be open to the idea that your best days are still ahead of you? And you know what his response was? Did I tell you, Julie?
No.
Okay, that was his response. He didn't text me back.
Huh.
He never texted me back. And I had since followed up with him with another text. I think I did anyway, but he never texted me back. So he told me this story about, how he felt like he literally said, he said, I know my best days are behind me.
I remember that part. You read it to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I told you that. And I just thought to myself, this guy really, truly does need, and this is one of the reasons I want to do the show today, because if you're listening, we're talking about this HRT stuff, because had you scheduled a call with me, that's one of the things I would have told you to do is get your blood checked, because I guarantee you, my friend, you have low T. Otherwise, you've proven your ability to be successful in the past. I do not give a rat's ass that you're 59. You have lots of energy. You have lots of potential left in your life. Your best days can still be in front of you, but you're benchmarking your life against the people around you in your environment. All your friends, all the people you know on Facebook are all sort of equally getting old equally at the same time. Like, Julie, tell me what you were telling me about looking at your Facebook friends from high school. Talk about it.
Yeah. Well, every now and then I'll look at somebody and be like, oh my God, are we really that old? Are, my class, are we like, because they just look like, I check, is that their parents or is that them? Like, is that their grandpa? No. Oh my God, I graduated with that person. Sometimes. Now, there are also people that are classmates that really have their act together who I very much admire, and they're very proactive, and we share like how many steps a day we did or whatever. It's not everybody, but I think most people listening have had that experience where you go, oh my, and then maybe you have a Zoom call and you're looking at yourself and you go, gosh, maybe I need to be more proactive too. So yeah, that's what we were talking about.
What if your benchmark for your age isn't how long your parents lived or your aunt and uncles lived? What if we're into this new dawn of, you guys, the AI thing is going to transform medical in ways we can't even possibly imagine. And Julie and I have only talked about HRT. Get these notes, just subscribe to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the notes and just read the blueprint. I wasn't even going to try to get through all the notes. It's too much. It's very comprehensive. But in any event, the point is what if your benchmarks that are you're part of your iOS, your software in your head, are all completely wrong, right? Because if you think about it, you are subconsciously modeling the behavior of the people around you, and they're modeling the behavior of the people that they grew up with, their parents and their aunts and uncles and their grandparents. But you got to think back how many generations ago that was, and how little we knew about peptides and hormone replacement therapies and all these other types of things you can be doing. And there was something, Julie, remember I read it to you yesterday or the day before, where they're actually figuring out, you're going to have to help me here because I always screw this up, the epnogenome and
epigenetics. Are you
the
talking about?
epigenetics. Remember how he was saying that?
I actually have woven that into Fun Friday tomorrow.
Okay, well, can you talk about it now?
But we can talk about it a little bit too, if you want me to.
Sure.
So epigenetics it's really the ability, and they've studied this. This is not speculation. It's the ability to, through your lifestyle, your choices, your health, like your nutrition and your exercise and things like that, you can turn on or off a gene that is within you that you are pre-programmed with. Okay. So maybe you're programmed to have, we're doing all these tests. We're thinking about things like cancer. Maybe you do have cancer in your family and you know that you've got that gene. Studies have shown that by changing your certain habits and lifestyle things, you can turn that gene off, that you're not just destined to have that happen to you. That is a real thing. And they're studying that as something that I follow. There's also Julie, some RNA testing that you can change not just your epigenetics, but your RNA, which is similar to DNA, but it's much more specific to certain things.
Well, but so you can change behaviors that will lessen the likelihood of that gene being activated. But these new therapies that they've developed are actually going to be able to completely turn those off inside of your body.
Very cool, right?
Right. So that your genetic predispositions, as it were, including aging, and that's what's frankly crazy. So your body's aging and your all the signs of aging and all the things that happen with, as you get older, we are right this close to essentially being able to understand how, look, so the HRT and the nutrition and the exercise and all those things, all you're trying to do is basically increase the likelihood that you're not going to experience these medical and physical hardships. But what's going to happen, and again, I listened to this, it was 2 hours long, but I couldn't stop watching it. These guys were talking about the fact that they're this close to being able to make it so that they'll be able to actually turn off the very things inside of our body that cause us to age and cause us to develop disease. So you got to keep yourself,
you got to stay healthy enough to take advantage of these new things.
Exactly.
And to me, I think that you owe it to you, not just to yourself, of course, to yourself, but also to your family, people who care about you, to make yourself the best you that you can be. And this does relate back to coaching. And you were talking about elite coaching and one-on-one coaching. You said, that's not the program for somebody saying, how do I generate business? These clients that we work with on a one-on-one basis, we're working on all of these things. And, everybody has access to the treasure map where you work on 5 areas of life. Well, physical is one of them, right? And that's not just stop eating junk food. You know that. Everybody knows that. Okay. It goes way beyond that. It's, what are the things based on your age and your tendencies that you should be doing to take better care of yourself? And have you scheduled those? The accountability of that, getting it done, and then having a professional who specializes in those things, analyze those results and give you well-reasoned solutions to getting better at that. Like, I'll give you an example for me. We live in the Caribbean most of the year, and we live in the mountains in North Carolina during hurricane season. Okay. Living in the Caribbean, where you and I go on a walk every other day for 6 miles in the sunshine, I never in a million years would think I was vitamin D deficient. How is that even possible? But for whatever reason, I am. Okay, so what does that mean? Take more vitamin D. Well, how much should you take? And if I didn't do it, what are the things that leads to? The doctor that told me that said that there's all kinds of stuff that would be negative if I didn't get in front of that vitamin D deficiency. Now that's something I could have easily gone the rest of my life thinking, there's no way I'm vitamin D deficient. I get plenty of sunshine, right? So there's lots of little micro things, and then there's major things, some more, for people than others. But I do think that you owe it to yourself to be very proactive with your health. And I also appreciate, as I was saying earlier, that can be stressful sometimes. But the way I get myself through some of those uncomfortable exams and blood tests and inconveniences is, I imagine if I didn't do that, and then I found out I had to deal with something later, how would that feel? That would be 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times worse than the temporary inconvenience and perceived suffering of going through some of those exams, especially the girl ones.
So yeah, I know that does. Yeah.
No, you don't know.
I don't know.
But you could imagine, maybe sort of halfway.
Not really. Well, so moving on. So the first thing we'll suggest all of you guys do is definitely just open the idea to the fact that we are all in the right place at the right time, and we are all going to experience absolute, amazing, miraculous health advancements in the very near future. So you got to keep yourself in the best condition you can to make the most of that. It's the Ray Kurzweil philosophy on the singularity. We are in the midst of the singularity. It's happening now. If you guys aren't familiar with that and you really want to nerd out to the next level, just Google Ray Kurzweil singularity. It's pretty cool. So moving forward, the next thing I will suggest you do is one of the things that Julie has to have half a Xanax to be able to get through, but it's worth doing, right? Yeah. She takes Xanax when she does this particular thing we're about to tell you about, and when she goes on the racetrack with me or crazy driving. Or
Tail the Dragon with you driving. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So, again, we're going to suggest you guys do this. It's something you should do usually once a year. But again, we're all about the preventative thing. So it's called, I say this wrong, sweetie. So what is it? Prenuvo?
Oh, Prenuvo. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a full body scan. I believe it's the MRI scan where you're in the tube. And just thinking about that for some of you, and I'm included in this, it creates, some panic, anxiety, and claustrophobia. However, when you go to Prenuvo, they know that about you, and they will pre-drug you to the point where you're not completely stoned out, but you can deal with it, and it's no big deal. The other thing I like about Prenuvo, and again, this is a place that you can do annual scans. Sometimes they recommend biannual, depending on what they find from the first scan. They're doing everything head to toe, brain scans, all of your major organs. They give you a very comprehensive report and an analysis with the doctor afterwards. These are the things that we saw. This is what we recommend you do about it. This is something to monitor or not monitor. Cool thing about Prenuvo is when you're doing that, they have a video and that is above your head, so you can just watch Netflix while you are in that thing for what, an hour or so, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
less than
it's
an
an
hour.
hour. But so what it is, it's an MRI scan, and it's this, you've seen these or maybe you've experienced it yourself, but it's a whole body MRI scan. It's $2,500. I think we do have Julie, I don't see in your notes that you had a link for the Prenuvo thing where they get a $250
I
discount.
think it's in the newsletter. I have to double check that.
Okay, if not, I'll just put it in the show description. I'll edit it or have Ann edit it. But in any event, so the Prenuvo thing is you lay in this, thing, and I mean, it doesn't give me anxiety, but I have to say the noises that thing makes, if you've never been in an MRI,
It's weird.
it is literally the craziest, strangest, because you can hear the magnets. Now they put earmuffs on you, but it is so wackadoo. It's like, okay, that was pretty much the worst noise I've ever heard. Oh, wait, there's more. Now we're going to go with ones that's even worse. So
And we want you to now hold your breath for 30 seconds till we say to breathe again.
hold your
Love
breath,
that kind.
right? Right. So they scan you from soup to nuts. Hold on. Soup to nuts?
Only if you're a guy.
top to bottom, right? They scan you from top
Head
to
to
bottom,
toe, shall we say.
head to toe. And then they will do an AI radiologist, and then a real radiologist will looks at the scans. And then you have an appointment with a nurse, and then the nurse reads you the results, and you can download these scan results anytime you want. And really the point of it is that you can then compare. Julie and I've done it now for 2 years in a row. This wasn't available until like 3 years ago, but then you can compare year over year just to see how, okay, there's this little thing here. Like I've got something called a Baker's cyst. It's in the back of my left knee. It's no big deal. Remove it if it causes pain, kind of thing. It's been there now for 2 years in a row. So whatever, it is what it is. If it's not hurting you, don't remove it, kind of thing. And then they can start monitoring all the little tiny things that might become a big thing 20 years or 30 years into the future, or 12 months into the future. That's preventative. What we're talking to you about now is being preventative. You have to be proactive like you are with your lead generation about your healthcare. So we talked about the blood tests. The one thing we didn't talk about, the HRT blood test, is it's going to test all your hormone levels. And then in addition to that, you can use like Merrick Labs or I forget the name of the other one, but again, these big lab companies, you can have them do complete blood panels, and their doctor or nurse will review them with you, and you can have included with your blood panel will be blood tests for any early warning signs in your body that your body is cancering in any of your vital organs. So you can have that done too. So again, proactive. We want you to take care of your body, health, nutrition, exercise, those things everyone sort of knows. The next thing is we want you to take to the next level, start doing the blood test, do consider doing HRT. It's like there's the statistics on the male end of it, because that's what I've really studied. It was incredible. Most men, by the time they hit 40, have lost something like 50% of all the testosterone they had when they were 20. I mean, it's the Clint Eastwood quote, right? I mean, Clint Eastwood's 93 starting a new movie. And he's famous for saying, I'm just, every day I fight to keep the old man out, and all of us need to be doing it. So that's the first thing, the blood test. And then the doctor then after the blood test will give you some health and nutrition suggestions, more of this, less of that. Now, and then we talked about the scans. Okay, the scans is another thing. It's preventative. They're going to then see if there's anything, making sure everything's as it should be. Now, the next level beyond that, I'm going to talk about weight loss. Does that make sense, Julie? Are we going in this logical order?
That's all. It's all related. That's a good segue. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to just be real direct with you. You're fat and you know it. Why
Maybe
do I
not
know
all
that?
of you, but chances are good statistically, at least some of you.
Yes. Well, it is most of them, right? I mean, statistically, you're fat and you know it. And it's like you get fat.
My job, just like during listing appointments, is to soften the direct approach that Tim takes occasionally. Go ahead.
Well, but I mean, I'm trying to make
But yes, you're right.
Yeah. Well, the average American is like, we don't even need to make them feel any worse than just saying it as I just did, but just start out with that premise. And I get it. If you're in an environment where everyone else is equally as, let's just say, rotund, then it's normalized to you. You don't really think about it. You're just like, oh, I'm fat, but oh, Bob over there, man, that guy's a whale. People say and think these things.
Sure.
And if your environment where everybody's fat and it's okay. So here's the problem with being fat for long periods of time. is that a lot of the medical problems that people have normalized as they get older are solvable if you lose weight. Diabetes, obviously, a lot of the problems with, the problems that where people take lipids and all these other things to
Hmm.
help with blood cholesterol. We have many friends now. It was so funny when people started taking semaglutide. Julie and I were in North Carolina at our mountain place, and we went back to Puerto Rico where we have a ton of friends in the gym, and they were like, holy crap, these people don't even look the same. It's because semaglutide had just become a known way of losing weight maybe 6 months prior to us returning. And all these people had lost all this weight. And of course, when you ask them, none of them were on semaglutide, right? None of them would say they
Yeah.
were, but you kind of suspected that they were.
I've been
So,
working out more.
yeah, I've been working out more. Yeah, over Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, buddy. So, one of our friends, and then many of our friends who had been fat, who had lost the weight, were telling us, and two of them in particular were telling us how they had completely gone off of. I'm really not a medical person, but the things that you take
I
when
think
you
it was
have,
lipids, wasn't it?
I think it was lipids, the blood cholesterol stuff, and so one of them, I think I don't remember. His name doesn't matter. I'll remember when I stop trying to remember. But he said he went to the doctor and he had a high cholesterol problem for like years. He went to the doctor to have his blood test taken. And this was after he was on semaglutide, after he'd lost some weight. And the doctor just sort of had always been telling him, you're going to have huge heart problems. You have this problem with blood cholesterol. Same thing, same thing. Stay on your drugs. So he went on semaglutide without telling his doctor. He lost a bunch of weight. Rob, Julie,
Hmm.
don't say last names. Rob. We
Yeah, I
saw
know who
them.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, we hung out with them in Italy
Yes.
at
I
an
know who you mean.
airport. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So he lost a ton of weight. And then he was telling me this, Julie and I, this story, how he went to his doctor. The doctor gave him the blood test. The results came back. The doctor didn't even tell him the results. The doctor said, oh, somehow your results got mixed up with somebody else's results. You got to go back. And he had his
Hmm.
blood taken again. And then the doctor, obviously, the results came back again the same. And the doctor said, Rob, what the hell are you doing? How did you go about now?
Hmm.
You lost, you have none of these, cholesterol level problems anymore in your blood. And he said, I went on semaglutide and I've lost a lot of weight. He was using a telemed doctor, by the way.
Hmm.
So the doctor couldn't really see him, beyond his shoulders because it was a Zoom. And the doctor said, I can't believe it. I've never seen these results before. And so why am I telling you that? The doctor himself, who was a heart specialist, hadn't yet studied why every single one of his patients should be on semaglutide. That's interesting to me. Remember when I
Hmm.
told you I went to see the GP and he said my low range of testosterone was okay, that's fine. And then I went to see a specialist and he said, I never told you guys the punchline. The specialist said, yeah, well, you can get by with low testosterone, but wouldn't you rather have it in the normal zone, which is in the 6 to 800 range? And I said, well, yeah. And so that's
Duh.
where I've
Yeah.
remained. You guys get it? So this is the same thing that Rob was experiencing with his doctor. His doctor had never even really thought to study semaglutide, tell his patients to all get on it. He did. And then I heard that's a variation of that same story from a lot of our other friends at the gym. Moral of the story here is the jury is in. RFK, Julie, did you hear this? He's trying to make
Hmm.
it so that semaglutide is one of the things.
Healthcare, that health insurance will cover it.
Yeah, not just health insurance, but Medicaid, Medicare too.
Hmm.
It,
And
it's
he's
it,
a skeptic.
yeah, he's a skeptic about everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's encouraging. And the thing is that people think of that I think primarily now as the weight loss cure or drug, but they've shown that it affects all of these other things, like our friend Rob with his lipids no longer being an issue. There's so many other things that it's regulating and improving upon. I think part of what we're talking about today is to stay up to speed on things, right? So you mentioned with the women's HRT that there had been that very damaging article that had a lot of press but wasn't particularly vetted. And then there was some vetting, but the criticism of it was not nearly as publicized. So you could go on, as I did, for several years believing based on that article that, well, maybe that's not something I want to do, right? And there was a lot of negative things that people were talking about semaglutide, and of course there are limited 4 or 5 really scary reports where somebody died of it. And here's the thing, when you read those, because I do read further down than the headline, it says it's because they thought that because they were losing weight with a little dose, that if they did 10 times the dose, then they must be able to lose 100 pounds in a week instead of 3. Thinking that through logically, that would equal an overdose. So
Well,
of
but
course,
Julie,
something bad happened because you self-medicated.
you just said something really interesting about semaglutide. So there was a whole bunch of reports, and it was
Mhm.
all garbage reporting. And you guys do this homework yourself, like Jules just said, about semaglutide. Oh, big danger of semaglutide. You're going to lose muscle mass. All right. So that is partially
So,
true.
so just to pause for a second, they might not be familiar with the word semaglutide. We're talking about Ozempic and Mounjaro and those
Yep.
terms that maybe you are familiar with. Go ahead.
Right. So all of those things are a peptide, and the peptide is semaglutide, and you can get semaglutide from a compounding pharmacy and not have to pay for the brand name. So peptides are things that our bodies naturally produce. They're not created in a lab necessarily. They're synthetic peptides. So the peptides themselves can't be trademarked, I think it is. And so
Mhm.
the moral of the story is that these brand name ones are just essentially branded and marketed versions of semaglutide, which you can get from a compounding pharmacy. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, just do your own homework on it. So what was I about to say before you said that?
Well, there were other reports about semaglutide
Oh
being
yeah.
bad or
Okay.
having
Yeah.
bad effects or what have you.
Losing muscle mass. So when you lose, what happens is if you're not working out, if you're not even doing anything, and you take semaglutide, you are going to lose fat, but you're also going to lose muscle. And so what they were trying to infer in these articles was that the semaglutide is actually causing you to lose muscle mass, but it was causing you to lose a lot of fat, like 18 to 25% body fat loss. So if you're 30 pounds overweight, you're supposed to be, say, 180, and you take semaglutide, and you're going to get down to your without exercising, which is not what we're suggesting, but you will lose all that body fat over time if you follow your doctor's prescription of it. But if you're not working out, you're also going to lose muscle mass towards the end of the cycle for the semaglutide. The way to actually make it so that doesn't happen is, guess what? Eat more protein, eat whey protein, supplement with protein, which you should be doing anyway, especially as you get older. Muscle mass is the hardest thing to get and the hardest thing to keep, and the most important thing to have as you get older. So I'm gonna sprinkle you guys a little bit with this. When you look at there was a study done on HRT and the same things, that the men, as they've grown older, that have developed a lot of the things that are just horrible diseases and heart problems and all the rest of it, almost to a person, again, not a doctor, the characteristics or the health problems that they had were the same. They had high cholesterol, they had low testosterone, they had low bone muscle density, they weren't exercising on a regular basis. All these things that we know that you're not supposed to do as you get older, but a lot of these things are just essentially part of the I think the aging process. If you're not being proactive, like what Julie and I are trying to hopefully enlighten you about, you can be more proactive about. So if you, for example, there was another similar bad report about men in prostate cancer who take testosterone. Do your own homework on this, but you'll find that there actually is no correlation, or virtually no correlation, between an increase in prostate cancer and testosterone. Now, if you're older and you have prostate cancer and you go on testosterone, it's believed that possibly taking testosterone will fuel the prostate cancer to be more aggressive. But that in itself isn't even validated. But what is validated is if you study older men who have some of these horrible things that happen as a lot of people get older, they have what? Heart disease that would have been preventable had they gone on, semaglutide, they have low testosterone, and a lot of the problems that happen with low testosterone that it could have been headed off the path had they started on testosterone. So the things that happen with aging that a lot of us just accept because that's part of your profile, or that's what happened to all of your relatives. Again, just really driving this point home. You can actually head a lot of that off at the past, and you can decide to go on your own way. If you should be exploring all this information yourself. You should be going past even what we're saying on this podcast, past what we have researched extensively on this white paper that we want to give to all of you guys when you subscribe to the newsletter, and just take away from what we're presenting to all of you today and in this white paper, that when being proactive, you actually mitigate the fear. Because the fear that people have of the white coats, the fear
That's
of people
right.
have of getting older is that you're just going to wake up one day and something's going to fall off or start leaking. Well,
Yeah, but by living with that fear and having that pre-programmed this black cloud over your head that one day I'm going to wake up and it's just going to all hit the fan. Don't you think carrying that around is creating some of the stress? I
definitely.
think it is. I mean, I get plenty wound up before doctor appointments. I do. But then when it's over, I'm like, ha, one less thing. Especially if I get, when I get good results back. Give that gift to yourself. That's one of the things that we are doing with our elite coaching. We are upgrading all of the things that we do for you. It's not just about making you more productive and getting you more time and all of the predictable real estate coaching things. It's about helping you become the best human that you can be for yourself, for your family, so you can live longer, you can live better lives, you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's one of the most common things that we see with coaching clients that are top producers that have figured that stuff out, right? That is not the issue. The issue is all of the things that they procrastinated, all of the expense that they did when they are learning to be very productive. Maybe they haven't gone to the doctor in like 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 10 years. I've had female coaching clients that haven't been to the doctor in a decade. That's not okay. It's great that you're very productive and you're making tons of money and, selling tons of houses. That's fantastic. But what are you doing it for?
So
Aren't you
when you
doing it
guys,
for to have freedom of lifestyle?
when you guys don't feel like your best days are still ahead of you, it doesn't matter what your age are. People can feel that way at all different, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, odd and older. If you don't feel like your best days are still in front of you, it's not, you guys go to the mindset woo-woo stuff, but the reality of it is it could just be your hormone level. It probably is. It could just be, again, in this white paper, we talk about exercise. We talk about things that you can proactively control and have an influence on. So if you don't feel like the person that you once were, this is your opportunity to really do something about it. Set aside your skepticism as much as you can. If you want to go down the rabbit hole and do all this research yourself, it's probably smart that you do that, but do be proactive. Don't wait around to, have something fall off or start leaking before you decide to start doing start fixing the problem. Because then at that point, it's a hell of a lot more stressful and more costly. The number one reason for bankruptcies in the United States is, guess what? Medical bills, which you cannot, write off through bankruptcy. I think that's right. So the moral of the story is be proactive about all this and realize if you're not feeling like your best days are still in front of you, well, you know what? That is something you can do something about. The more mindset stuff you have is, if it's not turning the corner for you, it's probably something that's hormonal. It might be something that is just exercise or sleep related. We didn't even talk about, 90% of the stuff that we put together in this white paper for you guys. So do subscribe to our newsletter. It's harrisrealestatedaily.com. And if you have any comments or suggestions, do put them into YouTube. If we didn't get all of our facts right, forgive us again. We're not professionals at this. What we do when we talk about topics that are a little bit off of our, out of our
Off the normal
wheelhouse.
menu.
And yeah, exactly. We don't try to act like we're something that we're not. And we're telling you that this is because we're probably approaching this like a lot of you will be or are, just sort of in learning mode. But do take action on it and take it seriously. This is just one of the little tiny things we focus on with you guys about in elite coaching, because it's not enough. And this is what Julie was suggesting. It's not enough just to help you get your financial house in order. If you don't have the health and the mental, emotional wellness to enjoy the fruits of your labor, then you're probably not going to be very motivated to continue to work at a high level.
Exactly.
So if the younger version of you is an ass kicker and you're not an ass kicker now, it's probably because you need to get this white paper and start taking actions on these things. If you've gone to your GP and the GP hasn't really given you medical advice that has proven to be helpful, it's because he or she doesn't understand it or know it. I'm going to tell you, Julie and I will tell you guys a funny story now about something we did in January that I think will make you guys laugh. I'll tee it up and you can tell the story. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I had been for years, Julie and I wore glasses, and we didn't wear contacts. We wore glasses. We started wearing glasses, I think, every day, probably about 12 or 15 years ago. And glasses kind of suck. There's no two ways around it. You're putting, if you wear glasses, and all of you will, like 99% of everyone by the time they hit 45 are going to have to wear glasses. We started to explore that there was a way that you could no longer have to wear glasses by doing, it's called different things, but if you guys Google it, premium lens replacement surgery, basically, where they replaced your lens. And it does sound horrible, but it's actually very simple. So the essence of it is they'll go in there. It's not a contact. It's not LASIK. I'm not talking about either of those. They go in there and they remove your lens because as you get older, your lens loses its elasticity and everyone develops cataracts. We didn't have any cataract issues, but obviously we were wearing glasses and your lens can't, when you squint, if you're not wearing your glasses and you have to squint to see small print, what you're doing is you're forcing your lens to actually start focusing again because it doesn't do it naturally. Like when you're younger, you can adjust your eyes, just adjust it.
You don't even know what's happening.
You don't even know what's happening. But as you get older, you start, glasses are just merely a hack. They're a crutch, is at the end of the day what I'm saying. So you can get premium lens replacement therapy, surgery, and they pull out your old lens. They actually, it's not pull out, it's suck out, but that's aside. And then they put it in a new lens. Well, I won't gross them out, but that's the essence. And the procedure is 15 minutes per eye. It's no big deal. Julie, who do we use?
Sight Trust in Florida.
Yeah. Sight Trust in Florida. Okay. Yep. So one of the things after you have the procedure, Julie and I were there, they have a follow-up the following day. And I remember essentially in the follow-up, I was able to read my vision in my left eye went back to 2020. I can read the tiniest little print on anything now, which is incredible. So we went back the following day and, everything just to make sure everything's good. And then we flew back to Puerto Rico and then they want you to go see an eye doctor just so they can give you you look at, what is it called?
Well,
Julie,
they're making sure you don't have eye infection and things like that, but they're also testing like how much of an improvement it was versus when they tested you prior to the surgery.
And they want you to benchmark it over like 90 days. So you're supposed to
show healing, basically.
Just show healing, right? So we went to the eye doctor and I was sitting in the medical room with Julie as he was doing this procedure. And go ahead, you can tell the story.
And okay, so keep in mind that we had Sight Trust, who does this for a living. That eye surgery is their thing. Okay, we had them send all of the medical documents and the findings and the not X-rays, but the eye equivalent to this doctor in Puerto Rico.
No, he was a doctor.
Well, okay, so he was supposed to read all this ahead of time and know exactly what his mission was. That he's just there to gauge the recovery after this surgery, right? Well, he either didn't read it or didn't understand it or was totally out of his wheelhouse because all he wanted to do was put glasses on me again. And he actually argued with me that he's like looking in my eye with the bright light and the whole thing. He's like, "Oh, I see you've had LASIK." I'm like, "No, I haven't had LASIK." And he's like, "There's another slice there and you must have had it twice." Like, dude, did you not even read the email?
He didn't. He said, when I asked him, Julie, he said, that's for my assistants to read. So this guy's an optometrist and he didn't read the fact that we had just had this procedure done. So he was essentially, his job was to sell glasses. He was just doing his usual procedure, do the eye exam. Is this better or is this worse? And now go pick out some glasses in the lobby. And by the way, Tim, I told you this morning, I set up a new eye doctor here in Murphy, and I had several questions where I interviewed them. And as the doctor this was the doctor's assistant. And I'm like, tell me what, I didn't tee her up to know the answer from my question. Scripting, sorry. I said, so tell me what your knowledge is about total lens replacement. Where she would have been on the spot if she didn't know. And then she gave me like chapter and verse. They've got a surgeon on staff that comes up from Atlanta, I think, that does that for them. And he does all the follow-ups. He knows exactly what you're talking about. And yes, we'll take good care of you and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's my shortened version. But the point is that here's the Puerto Rican eye doctor who we had trusted and we had gotten our glasses from for 5 years and even did Zoe's exam. And I really don't think he had any idea what we're talking about. He didn't. He said it. But to your point, so this procedure had been normally done for people that had cataracts. So It was originally developed like decades ago to replace lenses that had been, your grandma or great grandma.
That are foggy, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So what they'd done, just so you guys know, again, research this is pretty badass, is they now have made these lenses that are essentially make it so you can see 20/20 distance, 20/20 mid-range, and 20/20 up close. I'm telling you.
And fix astigmatism, by the way.
And fix astigmatism, exactly. It's incredible. So we are sitting in this, Julie was sitting in the medical chair. The doctor was between her, it's not a big room. The doctor was between her and me, and we're texting. And I say, Julie, this guy does not know what the hell. He's a quack. He doesn't know what he's doing because all he wanted to do, and he was arguing with her, I was in the room. All he wanted to do was get her to, okay, now we're, he knew she had the procedure, but now it's time for you to get your
I don't
glasses
think he even knew what
prescription.
it was.
Bro
Yeah,
had a
like
boat payment.
I was there to just gauge so that I could call Sight Trust back and say, okay, my distance is now 2040 and my reading is 2020. And all I wanted was a report. I wanted like a 10-minute appointment.
Right. By the way, you can see well enough to drive 2 days after you've had the procedure. And 6 months after, you can see basically perfectly. So, yeah. So we went in to start talking to him, and then we stopped him. I was texting Julie, we are going to get the hell out of here. This guy does not know what he's doing. He
Yeah.
does not know about this procedure because he literally, you could tell, did not know. And then finally he admitted it. I didn't read the email from the Sight Trust. I don't. And then we said, I had him turn around. I had looked at me, and I said, we had our lenses replaced so we would never have to wear glasses again. That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
And his face turned white because he makes money
Called out. Yeah.
selling lenses and glasses. And so I told him no more of that. And he
No
goes,
mas.
he stopped and he goes, yeah, no mas. He goes, oh, we don't do that in Puerto Rico. And we're like,
I know. I'm like,
said
no
that.
kidding.
Yeah, he said that. He said, I don't know about this. And then we had to tell him. And then he really admitted he didn't read the email. And we had to tell him what we had done. We had to tell him about the premium lens replacement. We had to tell him about the fact the lenses, all this. He didn't know. And so here was our trusted eye doctor who was in selling Tim and Julie new lenses and frames mode. And we were telling him, bye-bye, Betty.
Yeah. Well, so at the top of the podcast, we were talking about being skeptics about healthcare. You do, I mean, I wish it wasn't true that you do have to do the research and you do have to do the vetting. That's one thing that I've learned about my parents getting older is, they've gone to a bunch of different specialists and they get different answers from different doctors. That's very frustrating. But just like real estate, you guys listening, you have, whether you realize it or not, you do have a specialty. Most of you are residential specialists, but there are some that are, like we have a really good friend in California. He's not just a commercial agent, but his thing is strip malls. That's his specialty, right? Doctors also have specialties. Now, it's not as obvious for us to know, especially when you're dealing with a GP or, it didn't occur to me that an optometrist in Puerto Rico wouldn't be as versed in things that happen, a 2-hour plane flight up in Miami, right? I didn't think that, but now it just adds to my vetting, right? Put things through filters. When you hire a coach, you put them through filters. When you take your kid to decide what school to send them to, you have filters. You interview the teachers. You look at the curriculum. Medical care is the same thing. So don't be intimidated by it. Fortunately, we can do a lot of this research using AI now, but also be your own best advisor. Ask good questions and learn from your experiences. Hopefully you're learning from this podcast where we expose you to some of those things. Because we've given you examples from the eye doctor. You had the example of our friend Rob in Puerto Rico with the semaglutide. And you had your story about HRT when you went to the GP and he's like, well, you're in the range, you're okay. And it'd be easy to stop there. I'll give you one more quick story. I just mentioned our friend in California who's the commercial agent. His wife is a very good friend of mine. They wanted to have a big family. When they started to be in family mode, okay, she had a couple of miscarriages that were very devastating. And she went to her normal OBGYN. And they, you know what they said to her? I'll never forget this. They said, you were just unlucky. That's what they said. And she, Laura Lee, she's very skeptical, analytical, very A, B, C, D, and E. And she's like, no, I want to have 3 or 4 kids. This is not acceptable to me. I'm not just going to have miscarriage after miscarriage. So she went to a specialist who studies, her situation. She had a little bit of blood work done. She said, you know what? That's not indicating anything. I'm going to have a broader blood panel done for hormones. It turns out she has this rare blood thing that has to do with the nutrients getting to the baby and all of these things. And that she takes a shot a day. She does that to herself that gives her a little something that prevents that from happening. And now they have 3 beautiful kids, okay? Because she said being deemed just unlucky wasn't good enough for her. She was going to be proactive and solve this problem and dug deeper and found a doctor who said, oh, it's this marker. You've got this. We know how to fix that. So be your own best advocate. She literally would not have a family today if she had not been the one who was proactive.
Yeah, and you have to with everything. And this actually, Julie, I love how you looped it, but The reality of it is a lot of you guys are not proactive about who you're choosing to take real estate advice from. You're not proactive. Oh, I'm a real estate coach. Well, what the hell does that mean? Have you actually validated that they are? At what level are you willing to, how low of a level of experience are you willing to accept? Julie, I had a call yesterday. I didn't tell you about this. Trying to remember who it was so I can use his first name. It was a guy. I remember that. I don't, it was somebody who wanted to be in my schedule as an elite client. I'll just leave it at that. And so he said he had been previously coached by a coaching organization that likes to tell a lot of fairy tales. And he said he could hear his coach actually reading a script from their coaching book. And he said he knew it because he could hear the pages turning.
Ugh. Yeah.
So that's fake coachery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's cookie cutter coaching if you're reading from the manual. Yeah.
That's not even coaching. That's just garbage.
No,
That's just fleecing agents for money because the agents weren't educated enough to go about asking the questions. And like when Julie and I are suggesting you, when you're choosing a real estate coach, when you're certainly choosing Julie and I for elite coaching, there's 4 questions, 5. Julie came up with a great one the other day when we presented this, but just remember, I'll go through it relatively quick. Has your coach ever had a real estate license? If not, that's not ever going to be a real estate coach. They're just a fraud. Sorry, but true. Has that coach ever sold over 100 homes in a single year? If they've done that, okay, proceed to question 3. Did they sell at least 100 homes per year for 5 years in a row? If they did, proceed to question 4. And question 4 is, do you remember?
Have they had at least 100,000 delivered paid coaching calls?
That's right. And question 4 is
not free office seminars, okay? Coaching calls.
Right. Real, honest to God, one-on-one with that particular agent who's paying them. It's paid coaching calls. So has that coach ever actually had 100,000 paid coaching calls? And why does the paid matter? Because if what's going to happen is if you are ever asked that question from a YouTube coach, or really most people that call themselves coaches, they're going to try to change the topic by saying, I've got so many subscribers, or I was speaking in an event and there are 300 people in the room. They'll try to conflate coaching with presenting, or coaching.
I've been in front of thousands of agents. Yeah.
It's not the same. Coaching is a very different experience. And so a lot of these calls I have where people are interested in being in my schedule as an elite coach, to be their elite performance coach, they have had coaches in the past, and then I ask what their experiences were like, and what they describe is not coaching. Coaching is so much deeper and more personal and more, I would say, all encompassing from the coach's perspective, but also from yours as the client's perspective. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, and our bonus point is, has the coach coached successfully through a variety of types of markets? Okay. So most of the quote coaches out there, especially the free or the YouTube or the Instagram or TikTok, whatever, if you ask them, here's a good test. Tell me your top 3 price reduction scripts. Silence. You'll get crickets, because if they've only been doing this during a hot seller's market, which until the past 2 or 3 years, really, you could have argued was about a decade long. Okay. So you have to have a variety of experience. And I would add to that also the flexibility to coach different personality styles, different price ranges, different areas of the country. Just because, the coach lives in California and you're a California agent does not automatically mean they're the best coach for you. They'd be a better coach if they had a variety of coaching clients in different types of markets, so that they have a greater flexibility of what they know how to teach you to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's truly it. And by the way, if you guys are interested, so we have, 4 levels of coaching. Elite coaching is our own private schedules. And I have not been privately coaching for almost 2 years. And I've decided that I want to have 10 clients. And I think I probably have all the spots spoken for. But if you're interested in being an elite coaching client with me, I'm very picky who I'm going to work with, as is Julie, because I'm looking for people that come already motivated. Look, I get it. Some of you are maybe needing to have some of this medical stuff gone through, and I'll help you do it. What I'm looking for is if you've been successful in the past. What I'm looking for is somebody who's moved past sort of the ego stuff, who's has realized, even maybe without even saying it, that they know that everything they want in life is on the other side of doing what they don't want to do, and they don't want to do it at the highest level. I'm looking for people that are either were on the ascension and have leveled off and want to get back on the ascension again. Or I had a great call this morning with a guy named,
Is it Dom?
Dom. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And he was great. And he'd been successful. And I know you're listening, Dom. He'd been successful, but just Julie was actually walking by when I was talking to him on my speakerphone. And instantly, Julie pointed at him and said, she mouthed to me, "That's the perfect client for you," because he is. So Dom has no real plan, lack of organization, but the guy sold 141 houses in the last, forget how many years. So that is what I like.
And he talks to people, what did he say? 50 people a day or something like that?
Yeah. And he totally is, exactly. So I'm like, okay, good. This guy's willing to do the real work of real estate. I could totally make this guy into the best agent ever. That is what I personally look for. So if you're a newer agent who's sort of looking for your direction, let's talk. A lot of the folks that are reaching out to me are people that have been really successful in the past and have leveled off. Let's talk. If you're looking to really make it so that your best years are indeed in front of you, not just for the sake of your business, frankly, that's not enough. Health, wealth, enjoyment of life. We're not woo-woo coaches. You got to be real clear about that. Julie and I are the antithesis of woo-woo coaches. If you're coming to us with the whole deeply rooted mindset issues and all the rest of it, the prescription we're going to give you is get into massive action. And this is what we're going to tell you to do or suggest that you do. You're then going to be held accountable to the things you're going to commit to. And then, surprise, surprise, your mindset issues seem to melt away. That is going to be our prescription. We're not going to be spending a lot of time trying to get you to get centered with the universe and channel your inner dragon or whatever these other things that people tell you, because we know ultimately that stuff's just woo-woo and fluff. We want you to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, and we want you to enjoy it as urgently as you possibly can, because you really only live once and you're dead a real long time. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for elite coaching clients, and only Julie said 2 or 3. I don't know how many spots I've left. So text me directly if you think that's you. 512-758-0206. In the meantime, this information is going to be posted exclusively in our newsletter. So if you want the long form of what we just presented to you, it really is a GPS, a white paper telling you exactly what you should be doing no matter what age you are. I'm going to be supplementing it. I was writing some things down as we were talking. I'll put some stuff in the notes, especially on YouTube. But yeah, definitely go there and download it. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter. Anything else you'd like to say to these guys? The funny part is, Julie, you and I thought we were going to do this in 30 minutes.
Impossible. I think, be proactive. Don't wait any longer on this. Even if you're not, staring down your 40th birthday and you're in your 30s or your 20s, start being proactive now. One of the cool things about that scan that we were talking about is that gives what they call a baseline, so that this is what you look like when you're healthiest. If you're starting when you're younger, right? This is what your body wants to do. This is how you are now. And then you do it 2 years later. Maybe you do hit 40 and you say, I want to be even more proactive. Okay, so how does that compare to the scan we did 2 years ago? Are things getting better or worse? What are the changes in your body? So don't wait. Waiting is not going to be on your side. Be proactive. And I promise you, you will feel relieved. Even if you find out there's something that you've got to deal with, isn't it better to deal with it earlier rather than later? I think
Julie, I'll tell you something funny. So Dom said he'd been listening to us for 3 years. I've heard this a whole bunch of times. I've been listening to you guys forever. And then I say, well, so why didn't you hire us earlier? And then they kind of waffle. Well, I had this coach and that coach, and they figured out they're all fake coaches. But I listened to you and Julie, and I knew what you guys were saying was true. So why didn't you hire us earlier? I keep on asking that question. And they say, because I knew you wouldn't put up with my bullshit.
That's right. What he said to me. For the accountability of it yet.
He didn't want it. It's because you have to be mature enough to step up to your, the things you're hiding
your own
from.
Potential. Yeah.
Right. And that's like what this health stuff is too. And that's what all these things are. But we're looking for... Well,
you know what? That's interesting, because it is a level of emotional maturity that you have to force yourself into.
Yeah.
And, it gets a little bit easier, but you're never going to just be like, all right, let's do the MRI machine today. Woohoo. You accept the fact that you're going to be a little bit nervous about it, but I also accept the fact that when it's over, you're going to be 10 times as relieved.
Hey, Julie, let's go on a colonoscopy vacation. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. That's awesome.
Okay, so I am going to tell them a punchline.
Said no one ever.
I'm going to tell them something funny about the eye procedure, since they listen this long. I'm going to tell them. All right.
About the eye procedure?
Okay. So the eye procedure is no big deal. A lot of measuring, a lot of drops. I'm not saying it's comfortable, but it's no big deal. And they totally anesthetize you. You don't feel anything. They give you a Valium, and you're kind of like doped up, but you're still awake. So you're awake during the procedure. Don't worry. I'm telling you, it's no big deal. You don't like, I barely remember it. But what I do remember is the nurse, wonderful nurses at this place. The
They're great.
staff there was ridiculously good. So the nurse gave me my little Valium. She said, "You're going to be going in next." And she said, "Don't worry, honey. The only thing you're going to feel is a slight pressure on your eye." And I'm thinking like, okay, whatever. I don't remember any pressure, but I do remember this. So about halfway into the procedure, I start, and remember, I couldn't feel anything. Your eyes are open. You're not really registering anything. You know, you're on Valium, but I do remember this sound. And I started hearing this slurping noise, and I started thinking, like laying there with my eyes open, kind of doped up, hearing this going on. And I didn't ask any questions. I just kept my mouth shut. Certainly don't want to interrupt the doctor as he's doing his thing.
Nope.
And then I thought to myself, you know what that is? That's the sound of their little microscopic vacuum vacuuming out my old lens. That's what it was. That's what it was.
It was totally like alien abduction for about 10 minutes, but
well, it didn't last that long. It was more like maybe 30 seconds.
Well, not the vacuuming part, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The procedure is like
because of the lights and the things, but yeah, I'm glad we did it. You know, that's the thing. Lots of ramp up to it. The pre-op was more extensive than the operation itself, but either way, you know, I am very glad that we both did it.
It's just measuring is all it is they just measure and make sure that
it's like an extensive eye exam. And if you guys are curious, because I know that at least 50% of you are probably wearing your glasses right now. If you're curious, go to that sighttrust.com website. They've got some really interesting videos that explain all of this stuff. So it's less of a weird concept to you. They're very good. And again, this is an example. Again, that's what they do. They don't do a whole bunch of other stuff. This is what they do. So they can explain it at a very professional level. And you can tell from their staff is super professional too. So if you're curious about that or anything else that we've talked about, do your own research, pull out some of these facts from the newsletter. Maybe you should be an elite coaching client so that we can take it to the next level with you and make sure that you're not just, you know, bringing top level healthcare to yourself and your family and your spouse, et cetera, but some of the other things that we'll be talking to you about on future shows.
We drill down on, like, it's not just lead generation and business systems and organization and sales scripts and objection handlers and building your team and all the rest of it. Elite coaching clients, you get all of that, of course. But we're also going to help you with the health stuff. We're also going to have the same, you guys, you know, think we deep dived into the health stuff. You just wait until we get into the financial stuff. Because really what we hope you are bringing to the relationship is that you want to build wealth. You want to be rich where your money works for you. You no longer work for your money. And so we have, trust me when I tell you, Julie and I have studied that to such a level that we can talk very fluidly about that. Unlike the health stuff, which we're kind of stammering through. Yeah. But as far as that goes, all these different aspects of your life will be covered. So when you have a coaching relationship, an elite coaching relationship with Julie and I, it's going to be like nothing you've ever experienced before. And you will finally know what real coaching is. So if you think that's you, and if you're ready for top level coaching, text us 512-758-0206. That's my cell phone number. Don't call, text. I swear I never answer the phone. And just leave and when you text me, just give me a little bio on you so I know where I'm starting from. And then I'll read it and I'll do a little homework on you. I'll go online, do some research on you. That way, when I'm calling, we're going to have a very high level call very quickly. All right. So in the meantime, hopefully you like today's podcast. Forgive us for going off the rails a little bit. Forgive us for going out of our wheelhouse a little bit. We know we're talking about things we're not experts at. We, gave ourselves the out on that 1,000 times on today's podcast. But do at least use this information to open your mind to the fact that in this new era of technology and healthcare, being proactive is the mindset shift that most of us need to take. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow. Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.